Humans have 99.9% of DNA the same, and the difference is only 0.1%. This tiny difference creates all visible differences, including face and body features. For example, more than 2,000 genes influence the human face, the form of the jaw, the nose length, the eye spacing, and these genes act like a huge orchestra. Even our skin tone is controlled more than 100 genes. Even small variations of melanin gene can dramatically change skin tone. Our body is made of trillions of cells, and inside each cell there is a tiny library called nucleus. Inside the library sits a long, elegant molecule called DNA, which holds an enormous amount of information. The complete instruction manual for how we look, how we'll grow, how our body works. You can imagine DNA as a huge book of instruction written in a 4-letter code, A, T, C, and G. It stores the full recipe for how to build a human body and how to run the human. So this is a huge book of instruction. Genes are received inside the book. We need these recipes to form our body components, and these components are usually proteins. So the thing you cook from this recipe is a protein. From these genes, from this information, we need to make a body, and for this we have two main components, two main steps, two main players. First, we need to read these genes. So we need read the information, and then we keep the small piece of information that we need for a specific dish or specific trait. For this, the enzyme RNA polymerase reads DNA and makes a temporary copy called messenger RNA. Then second step starts. Now we don't need the whole book for a specific recipe. We already have the small fraction of recipe as messenger RNA, and this messenger RNA is translated inside cell into protein. This happens in ribosomes. The ribosomes turn small piece of information into proteins. These proteins are building blocks. They shape our body, our skin, and our muscle, our organs, and we need these proteins to build the whole body. Human bodies are built from proteins. They shape everything we see and we cannot see. These proteins become enzymes, structural fibers, or hormones, or building materials. They become cartilage, which controls shape of our hair, nose, and joints. Proteins in the bones define how fast our bone grows. Even more interesting is that identical twins share 100% of their DNA. So they share all the information. They still look slightly different from each other. They start from the same cell, from the same information, but from the very first stage of development, each cell lives in slightly different environment. One twin cell receives a little more nutrient flow, a little more oxygen, or slightly different chemical signals at the exact second when a gene needs to activate. These micro differences change how a gene is used. Not gene itself. A protein may be produced a little faster in one twin at a specific pace, making the nose tip slightly higher, the jaw slightly stronger, or eyes slightly more angled. Then epigenetics plays a role. Some genes become active and others stay silent, even though the information is the same. So even if you have two identical books, you can make different meals from each book. One person may cook pancakes from the same recipe book, and another may cook potatoes from the same book. You have same information, the same book, but you actively create two different different outcomes. This is how epigenetic works. You have same genome, the same information, but you activate different genes. During conception, we get genetic information from both mother and father. We receive around 3 billion letters of DNA. A child gets exactly 50% of genes from each parent. But this does not mean traits are split 50-50. Some genes dominate, some stay silent, and some combine. Some genes even interact before the final outcome appears. The child receives 23 chromosomes from the mother, 23 chromosomes from the father, creating 46 in total. But these chromosomes are not equal. The mother always provides an X chromosome, while the father provides either X or a Y chromosome. This single difference defines the sex of baby. If the father gives an X chromosome, the child becomes male. If the father gives a Y chromosome, the child becomes male. That's why the father determines the sex, not the mother. Minority of our traits is defined by a single gene, but the majority is extremely complex and controls many genes together. Some disease, like sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis, or Huntington's disease, follow a classic single gene pattern. Some blood groups also follow this principle, but the majority of human traits are polygenic, including height, intelligence, skin color, body proportions, facial features, even diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, and autoimmune disease are shaped by dozens or hundreds of genes. People are wondering whether we inherit from the mother or the father. Genetically, it's equal, but the impact is different. For example, mitochondrial DNA comes from the mother and never from the father. It means child's energy production, cellular aging speed, and some aspects of metabolism and fertility comes directly from the maternal line. If the mother's mitochondrial DNA is strong, the child may have better endurance, better cellular repair, and slower energy decline with age. If it's weak, the child may be more prone to fatigue, metabolic problems, and age-related issues. On the other hand, patterns like hair growth, baldness, and some body proportions typically shows stronger paternal influence. Genes that influence height, especially in boys, often follow a stronger paternal pattern. Fat distribution often follows a maternal line. Defining where fat is stored, like hips, tight, or belly. Metabolism rhythm also frequently follows the mother. Baseline energy efficiency, fatigue resistance, and even circadian rhythm, whether someone is a morning or night person, often reflects the maternal energy clock. Skin aging speed often reflects maternal genes, regulating collagen breakdown. Anxiety sensitivity can also be influenced by mother because prenatal exposure to cortisol shapes how fetal brain responds to stress, emotional resistance. Skin sensitivity, eczema, allergy, and pain tolerance pattern often trace back to maternal influence. Even hand size and proportions can follow maternal inheritance. On the other hand, traits like facial symmetry, body hair pattern, eye shape, nose bridge, height and voice depth, and natural rhythm of walking show stronger paternal influence. Body symmetry often follows the father. Genes create human-specific traits, which are visible in our nose, eye, height, wrinkles, and aging speed, and even penis size. All these are controlled by genes. None of it is random. For example, in the human nose, we think it's simple structure, but genetically it's one of the most complex facial components. The nose bridge height, length, and width, and nostril shape are controlled by more than 50 different genes, and each influence the stiffness of cartilage or thickness of skin, the amount of collagen and growth rate, and the underlying bone. Even tiny variations in these genes change how nose looks. The story becomes even more powerful when we talk about aging. Many people think that wrinkles are only a result of expression, sunlight, or time. But the truth is deeper. Aging begins in genetic program of every cell. Certain gene decides how quickly collagen breaks down, and other decides how fast new collagen will be made. Studies show around 60% of how quickly we develop wrinkles is written in our genes. 40% depends on our lifestyle. Even intelligence has genetic roots. Its network of abilities like memory, reasoning, verbal skills, spatial skills, and processing speed. More than 1,000 gene variations influence different parts of intelligence, and each one has tiny effect. Genetic influence on intelligence is about 40% in childhood, and it rises around 80% in adulthood. That's why childhood success does not define the whole story. Genetics becomes more influential later in life. Genes regulate neuron shape, how synapses connect, and how efficiently signals travel through the brain. But environment still plays an important role, including nutrition, early childhood stimulation, education, sleep, and emotional safety. Our genes influence our temperament, motivation, risk-taking behavior, stress response, and even style of thinking. Small changes in dopamine receptor can make one person more adventurous and another more cautious. Variations in serotonin genes influence anxiety tendency. Certain dopamine receptor types are linked to creativity, persistence, and problem solving. None of these genes define an individual density. None of these genes define an individual's destiny. None of these genes define an individual's destiny, but they shape the style of mind just like they shape the style of the face.